Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. Inshallah ta'ala, we are recording this on YouTube as well, so you can always have a reference back to go, because last week video was recorded but it's not in. Inshallah, I'll send it to Kashif and he will post it to you. I forgot completely to send the video, inshallah, so for last week. Inshallah, we're gonna start today with the homework. So I had two students. Let me just double check, inshallah. I had an answer from Brother Khalil that's in the morning today, and also from Sister Afaf Bayanuni also. That's all I had. I don't see, I just checked now, I don't see any other answers. So only two answers, and the two answers are basically correct. And the answer is, and this is something that I would like you to make a note of it. It's not about the fiqh answer, it's about the methodology of a faqih or a student of knowledge, of how you present this knowledge to others. Remember, the whole purpose of studying is not just to gain knowledge, but to benefit others. Of course, to benefit yourself and to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in accordance to the way He wants us to worship Him, yani with knowledge. And second, to pass on the knowledge to others. But as you pass on knowledge to others, there is something very subtle here that, many da'is and many students of knowledge are not taught while they are learning. They're not taught that, especially if they are being taught by a specific school of thought. Their shuyukh, their imams are just emphasizing more on, literally is just learn the madhab, learn the opinions that we present to you. You learn it, you memorize it, and you pass it on to others as an answer to their questions. But what we don't realize is that sometimes is that the answer that we're passing on to others might put them in a very hardship, honestly, and they might lose connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they might end up disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by not complying with that ruling, thinking that they are in guilt because of its difficulties, and they live their life in guilt that they were not able to keep up with the answer, and they did not comply. And what that sometimes does as a negative consequences is that it teaches them to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sometimes, and not to have an issue with it anymore. So it's that numbness, that that being desensitized about an issue and not caring much about it is just because it became a habit. I know that this is haram, but I'm just going to do it anyway, or I can't get out of it anyway, and what have you. So we want to be very careful of how we seek knowledge and how we pass it on with an amana, with a trust, and with fairness to others. And this way, you do not leave any room of misunderstanding or any room for someone to really misuse the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us this flexibility of fiqh. Giving that introduction, it leads us into the answer of your homework, is that we have learned that the majority of scholars have said that if you wake up in the morning on the day of travel, that you intend to travel, you need to wake up with the intention of fast, with the intention to fast that day. As you proceed with your travel, as you leave your hometown, as you leave your premises, city premises, then you're allowed to break the fast with conditions. Some says is to break the fast with the intention, with difficulties, because you're going through difficulties, because you intended to start the worship act. And some say that you can break it because you're already on travel now. Besides that point, Some of the minority, some of the opinion says that you can go ahead and break the fast in the morning before you travel. And we have brought some evidences to that opinion, where we said first the ayah that allows to break the fast during travel, and the verse does not specify that you have uh, to march on your journey and to leave the premises and what have you. It was left for interpretation. And second evidence we have brought from top scholars, like knowledgeable scholars, that they have broken their fast during the morning before they, started their journey. And when they were questioned, and they were clearly questioned, why are you breaking the fast? You have not even started the travel. They said that this is the sunnah of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, which means that they have seen Prophet ﷺ doing that. It has not been recorded, but they have seen it. And now they're recording that. So it's actually as some scholar says that this is when a Sahabi bring the information up to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and the Sahabi is, all the Sahaba are trustworthy. When they say that this is the Sunnah of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, they will never say this statement unless they have heard directly from Prophet Muhammad ﷺ that this act is permissible, or that they have done it in front of him and he did not say anything about it, which also implies that it is permissible. These are all maxims of fiqh. These are all rules, rules and formulas that we build on it, many of the ahkam. So the answer would come back, and that answer was correct, from Brother Khalil and Sister Afaf, is that the opinion, this is how we're going to answer people. Someone is going to come to you and say, I woke up in the morning, I had my flight, it's going to be in the afternoon, but I know that I'm going to break the fast anyway, so I broke it from the morning. Since I'm going to be on travel, I ate breakfast, I enjoyed my coffee in the morning because I'm going to break it anyway, so why should I fast, until 2 o'clock in the morning? At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then break it then. So I want to break it now. And I did have a spousal relationship I had intercourse with my wife in the morning because she's traveling with him. Remember, if she's not traveling with him, then it becomes haram because she cannot allow him just because he's going to go on travel. It doesn't matter of the differences of opinion. For her, she's local. But the question was not about her being local. It was about her traveling with him. So she's going to be on travel as well. So the answer would come back. This is how you're going to answer people. So somebody's going to come and ask you, I have heard, I did that because I heard, you're not talking about a student of knowledge or anybody. It's just a layman, a basic Muslim that is living his or her life like many, many of us, is that they're not really deep into fiqh. They are trying their best to follow the rules, but they really depend heavily on I heard. So they said that I have heard that it's permissible to break the fast in the morning before you actually start before you actually proceed physically with your travel and you end up actually leaving the premises of your town. So I have heard. Because of that, I ate in the morning, and I did have a spousal relationship with my wife because we're going to be on travel for maybe a few days. I'm going to be extremely busy. So I really had a relationship with my wife. So that questioner would come and tell you, I have heard, and that's why I did it. But then I heard also later on, I was told that what I did was wrong and big wrong. And then I have to not only make up that day because I broke the fast, which is normal. That's all the scholars say that. But I also need to pay the kafara, and that is to fast the 60 days continuous 60 days and what have you. So they come to you and they question you, is this true? Now, the answer has to be as follow. The answer has to be that you would tell that person that, Alhamdulillah, since you have done that because you have heard that there is an opinion of scholars that say that it is permissible, and you just did not hear it, but rather, you heard it from a trusted source. You just didn't hear it like just community talk, but you heard it from a trusted source, or that you were in a lecture, you did not pay much attention about the proofs and evidences, but the trusted scholar told you that it is okay and what have you. Based on that, I did what I did. So you tell that person that you don't have to, all you need to do is to make up that day. But you want to be clear now that what you have done is just in accordance to the minority of scholars, but based on good evidence and strong evidence. But the majority of scholars don't see what you've done is correct, and they have the consequences of not only making up the day, but also the heavy expiation and kafara and what have you. Now, as you say that, you gave that questioner the truthfulness about this fiqh issue. So you leave that person to either extensively read more and explore this matter more, especially if he tends to be among those who care much about this. As I said, we learn fiqh because it doesn't only apply to us. There are many people that this pertains very, very important to them. Eating and drinking in the morning is very important to them. Having a spousal relationship is very important to them. So we cannot just say, why don't, because Allah created us differently. So this way that they have, since this is very important to them, and this, they will extensively go into more detailed and they will learn more. And this way you are very fair about your answer. So, and you are also, you did not go very heavy handed on them. As I started my introduction, where some of the student of knowledge end up, being very opinionated about their opinion, and just because they adopted the majority of the scholars' opinion, they end up going heavily on the questioner and say, no, you have not only to make it up, but you have to fast 60 days and to repent and what have you, and you cannot just live your life on I heard and what have you. And they actually mandate them to do that, and they end up most of the time not being able to do the 60 days, and they end up feeling that guilt that they have not complied and they went against Allah's rules, and they always live in that guilt. But as a student of knowledge, always your methodology is to make it easy on people, especially if there is room of way out. And what that person did, as I said, is not something haram. It's based on a very strong dalil, as we said. It's minority, but it's strong. It's based on a dalil. It's based on a general verse of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if you are on travel, then you are allowed and you're permitted to break your fast. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I'm permitted to break my fast, it means that I can eat, I can drink, and it includes that I can have a spousal relationship with my wife or with my spouse. So there is nothing that would come and tell me, oh, no, actually you can eat and drink, but you cannot approach your wife. There is no evidence on that. So that's a general, but then some say, well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, ala safar, it means after you pass the boundaries of your town. Then we come back and say, well, if that's the understanding, why top of the Sahaba have done it? Several of them have broken their fast in the morning before they actually started the travel. And they not only did that, but also announced in front of everyone that this is the sunnah of Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So we're having a very strong dalil here, and we should not just be opinionated about our dalil and say, no, it's just not right and they have to fast 60 days. No, we have to be easy on people, and we have to be fair, and we have to give both answers. So this way, you made the person alhamdulillah, not feel guilty, not having to fast 60 days, and not having to face the consequences of the guilt if he does not do it anyway, and also give him the answer to look deeper into this mas'ala and into this issue. So if it pertains very deeply to him, then he's going to research it more and more and get more comfortable with which answer he wants to adopt in his life. And either answer that he ends up adopting is a correct answer, and we cannot mandate consequences on these people. This is overall a methodology. That's why I said it's more of a fiqh answer. That's why I wanted to take my time, because with that methodology, you are going to apply it in many ways of your life. The reason why I said this is because I like the answer that came from Brother Khalil that gave the fiqh answer that pertain to that person, that does not, which means that that person does not have to uh, um, can do it and does not have to make any kafara. But then he also said that, the opinion that I adopt, I feel more comfortable with the jumhur, with the majority of scholars, that does not allow such thing. So this way that you have given the answer of the correct answer to that school of thought that actually allows it, which saves that person from severe consequences of fasting 60 days. But then you also put your own waiver that I personally feel more comfortable of adopting that, which tells me as a listener that, oh, there is another big opinion there that I need to research and to find out about. So it's now left up to me to be truthful in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether I'm just adopting that opinion just because it's easy, or is it really truly because I thought it was the only opinion. Now I know that there are other opinions I need to research more. With that, inshallah ta'ala, that could be applied on many of the other things of ahkam that we're going to go through in fasting, and also in salah, and in hajj, and in umrah, and in zakah, and many things. We're going to go through the same concept, which we say fatwa and taqwa. There is a concept of fatwa, and that is an answer. And there is a concept of taqwa as you mix them together, and that is the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to be fair, and to be just, and to also not be opinionated, and to be very flexible to give the answer from all perspectives, inshallah ta'ala. Now, today, inshallah, we are going to continue with the rulings of a traveler, and we will end most of the rulings on a traveler. So we can go into the other rulings on those who are allowed and permitted to break their fast during the daytime of the month of Ramadan. That includes the marid, the sick person, and we're gonna, inshallah ta'ala, go into that as an introduction today and continue next week before I give you the break for the Eid, inshallah ta'ala. This way, we would have covered all the rulings of a traveler in Ramadan, and also the rulings of a marid, like someone who claims to be, sick. So what's, or ill? What is the definition of an ill person? The sickness that actually allows a person to break the fast during the month of Ramadan. Is a headache considered to be illness? Is a migraine headache considered to be an illness? Is having symptoms of the flu, sneezing, coughing, sore throat, are these like more of the symptoms? Are included in it? And because again, remember taqwa, fatwa and taqwa. Allah says it's okay, but then you have to have taqwa to define, are you in that level of being covered by that permissibility, or are you just relaxing the rules to just take shortcuts anyway? So we will define that as we are defining now what it means to be a traveler, we're going to define what it means to be an ill person, a sick person that allows you to break the fast. So with the inshallah ta'ala, I needed, so we want to put things together, inshallah ta'ala, you know, to conclude things and to build on it. Now, before we do the conclusion on the travel, I have also added for you that, so we talked about the traveler himself. So just to put it part of the notes, not part of the question and answer that we had last week. So I kind of used your questions to include within our notes, inshallah. So you are on travel. You have started your travel. You have went from Raleigh to Charlotte. So you have left the premises of Raleigh. You are covered by all the opinions of the scholars. You have the permissibility to break your fast, but you didn't anyway. And then you are about to travel from Charlotte to Chicago. And as you are waiting for your flight, Maghrib time comes in. And you broke your fast in Charlotte Airport. Well, actually, I'm bringing kind of a wrong example. So you're traveling from Chicago to somewhere in the other side of the globe. So you're going really into an area where they have, now you are about to have nighttime, and you're going to a place on earth where they are at Fajr time, and in a couple of hours they will have sunrise. So as sun sets in Chicago, and you are intending to go on travel for international travel, you broke you actually finished the day and sunsets, and mashallah, you have your iftar and your you broke your fast on time at Maghrib time, and you completed the day. As you got on the plane and you started traveling, the sun rises again after a few hours, and now you have sunrise. Do you have you just finished the day? Now in 2 hours you are facing sun again. Do you have to start a new day? The answer is no. And that's why last week we said, if you have this kind of situation, you can, keep that day intact, because you know that you are about to complete the day while you are still in the US, which is good. But as you go into a travel that's going to give you a lot of confusion, then it's better to break the fast on that during that journey. But if you intend to, then you don't start the fast, because that is 2 hours apart does not mean a new day. Now, if you actually got on the plane and you're still fasting, and while you're on the plane, the sun sets, basically ghurub maghrib time, and then you were fasting, and now sun sets, so you actually break the fast, and that is considered to be a complete day for you. Even if you did not fast as many hours, that's fine. And the opposite is true as well. If you like the first example that we talked about, or not the first example. So you got on the plane and you were fasting, and you were supposed to really break the fast, like we said last week, but now I'm just including it in the video as notes. Inshallah, we're gonna add it. You were about to break your fast in a couple of hours, but now because of the travel, it ended up being 4 hours. So you kind of fasted 2 hours more. That's fine. Alhamdulillah, that's a complete day. And the opposite is true. You got on the plane and you were fasting, and you were supposed to fast another 4 hours, but you ended up having the sunset, the sun going down after 2 hours. So you ended up breaking your fast. A complete day is considered and accounted for you, but you fasted 2 hours less. It's also fine. That's a complete day, inshallah. Now we want to talk about what are, in conclusion, of the things that we have covered in order to put rulings on it, so you don't get confused of what's the opinion of the scholars. When do I break the fast, and when do I not break the fast, and when do I, or when is it must for me to break the fast? During travel, that is. So we're going to say first scenario, to put it together, is that you are on a travel, you're going to travel on a journey that is considered a very easy travel. Definition of travel is easy. No hardship that would be added to your fast. We are going to adopt the opinion in this class that fasting is preferable in this scenario. So I want you to put a note that fasting is preferable because the travel does not include any hardship. A sub question of this says, what if I break my fast anyway? Do I have the permissibility? And the answer is yes. Sub question, if I do so, what is the consequences? There is no consequences. You just need to make up that day like any other day that you break during the fast with a legitimate reason. So there is no kafara, no expiation on your act. And we brought a dalil and we said that it was reported that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ used to travel during Ramadan with his Sahaba. And some of them were fasting and some of them were not fasting. And he did not criticize anybody. So he allowed both. And it's the same travel, same criteria, same hardship, or same non-hardship. It's the same travel with Prophet ﷺ, and he did not criticize anybody. Now, why do we say that fasting is more preferable? Because we answered and we said, because fasting a day during the blessed months of Ramadan is not like any other days to make up during the year later on. And we said because fasting, at least now, it's in my hand and it's in my control and I know that I can do it. And I don't know what's going to happen to me if I defer it to later on. So it is something that I have more control of, inshallah. And also we said that because of the general rule that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that in general to continue fasting is preferable. All right? طيب. We have said that what I just told you is the majority of opinions. So you're gonna make a note that this is the majority of opinion. We feel comfortable with that. However, we did not adopt this opinion in this class. We feel very comfortable with it. But I'm sorry, I got confused now. I take this back. This is the opinion that we're adopting in this class. I was just thinking of breaking the fast in the morning. So this is the opinion that we adopted in this class. So yes, we did adopt the opinion that if the travel does not consist of any hardship, that we adopt the opinion that we continue the fast. We do not break that day. So we don't have to make it up in the future because of the blessed ajr and reward of the month of Ramadan, and because of the fact that we want to be within the general meaning and definition. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, that yes, we're permitted, but to continue the fast is better. And we don't see any reason why we should break the fast. And since it is done in front of Prophet ﷺ both ways and nothing was criticized, then we want to continue the fast. All right. So we said now second scenario to also like we want to bring all the rulings that now we put in them in more of maxims, rules, and general formulas that we adopt. Second scenario, the travel has hardship, but it's not extreme hardship. It's hardship. You know, it's going from airport to another airport. It's kind of summertime. You're sweating. You got luggage, terminals. You're going to a different maybe airport, what have you. It's just it's not too hard, but it's not a regular day either. So it does have hardship, but it's not extreme hardship at all. We say here that since it has hardship, we say that it is up to the traveler to decide. So both ways, both, we are saying both options are equal. Whether the person continues to fast or breaks the fast, both of them are preferable, depending on here the person. If a person really feels tired during a travel, then it's more preferable for that person to break the fast. If a person doesn't really mind it at all, then it's preferable not to break the fast. So it's both of them preferable. Both options are preferable depending on who's receiving the rulings on that. Now we have an evidence to prove that is that Prophet Muhammad once, this evidence I didn't share with you before, but I think I might have, but inshallah that's what we are going to include in the notes when I finalize them all and we get them translated for you. Where Prophet Muhammad said, لَيْسَ مِنَ الْبِرِّ الصِّيَامُ فِي السَّفَرِ. It is really not virtuous. I think I did share it with you, to fast during travel. But then we said there is the word travel has to be defined, whether it has a hardship or not. But that's the general hadith that give the permissibility and the preference to break the fast. Scenario number 3 is that the travel does include extreme hardship. It's a difficult travel. It's a long travel. It is definitely a travel that comes with major difficulties. You're traveling overseas, it's a long travel, you're jumping from airport to airport, different timings. You are having that confusion that we talked about, the day and night, and being very confused whether you're going to be able to complete a day or not. So many aspects into it. We say here the answer that the sunnah would be, it is more preferable, definitely more preferable to break the fast. And the answer is that I also shared with you in the notes, when Prophet ﷺ was traveling to Mecca during Ramadan, and some of the Sahaba started having difficulties, and now the extreme difficulties started being defined into that journey. When it started, it wasn't there. It was left up to the Sahaba. And, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ continued the fast. And as he was alerted that some of the Sahaba are really feeling very, very, very fatigued and very tired, and some of them are passing out and what have you, then he broke the fast himself, even though he did not need to do so, but he wanted to give a lesson that when it comes to be defined as a difficult travel, then you have a different ruling, and the ruling here, it becomes a must. And uh, uh, so here is the definition between preferable and a must. It becomes preferable, way more preferable on the person to break the fast when that person is going through severe difficulties, but still able to handle it, still able to push himself or herself, but going through that difficulties, it becomes way more preferable for that person not to do so. Meaning that don't push yourself, but rather break the fast and make it up later on. And it becomes a must on that person. It's not preferable anymore, a must on that person to break the fast when you go through extreme difficulties, like some of the Sahaba did, where you start having really, yeah, someone starting to pass out, someone is really having major difficulties to push himself, but they just don't want to break the fast anyway. They're having extreme headache, migraine headache, and like the worst situation happening to them. Their stomach is turning and they feel like they're extremely dizzy and what have you, but still they're pushing themselves because they want to finish the day. And they say, Khalas, it's only a couple of hours, 3 hours left. I don't want to break the fast. No, it becomes a must on them to break the fast, because Prophet ﷺ, when he broke the fast, when he was told about the Sahaba, he broke the fast toward the end of the day. It was getting very close to Maghrib time. He broke the fast because it was after Asr. He broke the fast, and he was told that some of the Sahaba wanted to go through that push. They wanted to push themselves since it's getting closer to Maghrib, and they're going to go through difficult times, severe difficult times, but they still can push themselves. So Prophet ﷺ said, no, they have to break the fast. Otherwise, they are going to be labeled al-usah, the disobedient ones. So we hear from that, extract the ruling, that it becomes haram on that person to continue the fast, because Prophet Muhammad ﷺ labeled it to be disobedience. Okay, inshallah ta'ala now, for the what I also finally want to share with you is a conclusion on the whole concept of travel and to break the fast on travel. So we want to talk about the conditions that are, I want you to write down on your notes, conditions that are agreed upon, like we did with Tahara chapter. Conditions. So we're putting those now, ahkam, all together, so you strengthen all your overall knowledge on the rulings of travel. Conditions that have been agreed upon among the scholars that allow a traveler to break his fast. Things that have agreed, the scholars agreed upon. So I want you to write down الشرط الأول, the first condition, that the travel is considered to be a long travel. It gets defined to be a travel. As we said, from Raleigh to Durham, it's a long distance, but it's not a traveling distance. So the first condition is that it has to be a long travel. The scholars have measured it to be 83 kilometers, but we said it is not really set in any evidence about the number of how many miles, but it's defined to be a long travel. You say, I am traveling tomorrow to Charlotte or to South Carolina or what have you. That's a travel for you. But you don't say tomorrow I'm traveling to Durham or Chapel Hill. So that's, even if Chapel Hill defines the length that the scholars have talked about, 83 kilometers, it's not a travel for us. So we define a travel by a long distance. Second condition that scholars agreed upon is what allows a traveler to shorten the prayer, because that's your criteria. So it's a long travel, but it might not fit to be an actual Shari'i, Islamically defined to be a travel. It's a long travel, but some people go to Charlotte every day, so that's not a travel for them, but it's travel for us. We can shorten the prayer, but they do not shorten the prayer because they're going back and forth every day. They don't say we go and we travel to Charlotte. So what defines for both of us a travel that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows is that this is what they agreed upon, remember, is a long travel, but it's not defined by distance. It's defined by what everybody agrees to be a long travel. It's long enough, that's the second condition, to allow me to shorten the prayer. Okay? So that really defines a travel. So whether I travel, I go to Charlotte, or whether he or she goes to Charlotte, both of us defined it to be a travel, and because we shorten our prayers. What about the person that goes back and forth every day? That does not apply to him. So these rules would not apply to him, because that would not be among the agreed upon, because the scholars are linking the long travel with shortening of the prayer. Third condition is that the traveler does not intend to stay in the destination he's going to more than 3 or 4 nights. So it's a quick travel. I'm going to go to Charlotte because I have an interview, or like, let's say, South Carolina or what have you, because I have an interview. I'm going to sleep the night there, or I have a test or what have you, or a project that I need to finish. I'm going to sleep the night there. Next morning, go for a full seminar. Second morning, same thing, and come back. So the whole thing would end within 3 days. So ألا ينوي المسافر الإقامة في البلد التي سافر إليها على خلاف بين العلماء. Now, the niyyah and the intention is not to stay more than 3 days. طيب. So because of that, you are defined to go on travel because of the long destination. You are going to shorten your prayer because it's long enough that it defines a Shari'i Islamic travel that allows you to shorten the prayer. Third, I have the intention not to stay for long time on the other side where I'm traveling to, which means that I'm not residing there, which means I don't have any settlement there. It's a quick in and out. With that, that's something agreed upon. So all the rules would apply. It doesn't matter which school of thought, any question that comes to you with these criteria, then you can feel comfortable to mark this person as a traveler. The second you mark this person as a traveler, then you apply all the rules of travel on that person. طيب, that's the whole issue why we're going through this, because now this is all agreed upon. And you know that all the rules now, you don't have to remember, according to the Shafi, according to the Hanafi, according to the Maliki, this person is allowed to break the fast because, no, khalas. You can just give an answer to anybody that says, you know, I'm going tomorrow to Columbia, South Carolina, and I am staying there for 3 days, and I'm coming back, inshallah, to Raleigh. So I have few questions. Can I shorten my prayer? The answer comes to that person from you immediately, yes, without having to say, well, according to the Hanafis, because you know that this is agreed upon. Can I break my fast? Yes. No details needed. You don't need to, oh, the Zahiri, the Maliki, Ibn Taymiyyah, nothing of that. Oh, the scholars have disagreed upon, nothing. You don't mention that. Because you know it's within the agreed upon. Can I break my fast? Yes. Can I, uh, 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 shorten my prayers? Yes. Can I combine my prayers? Yes. Can I break the fast for 3 days, or is it only during the travel time from Raleigh until I get to the hotel in Columbia, South Carolina? No, you can break the fast, you can shorten the prayer while you're traveling, and even when you reside at the hotel, since you're going only for 3 nights, because you are within the agreed upon period of time that the scholars and what have you. طيب, now same questions. Okay, I'm traveling with my wife. It's still the month of Ramadan. I'm having permissibility to break my fast. Can I have spousal relationship with my wife? Yes, yes. What do I need to do? You just need to make up the days like any other makeup. Do I have to put any expiation or anything just because I had a spousal relationship with my wife during the travel, and because I broke the fast? No, no expiation. Is this something? This is your opinion, or is it disagreed upon? No, it is all agreed upon because it's all within the agreed upon school of thought. The only thing that is not agreed upon in everything that we mentioned today is the duration of residency in the other side. So the Shafi'i and the Maliki give you the period of time that we talked about, 4 days including their nights. طيب, يعني 4 days and 4 nights. The Hanabila, or like the Hanbali school, actually extend that more than 4 because of incidents that happened with Prophet ﷺ that actually took longer than 4. According to the Hanafi school, they go all the way up to 15. Actually, some of the schools go all the way up to 19 and 21. Where are all these numbers coming from? It's all based on travels that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ did. And he stayed within those days, and he shortened the prayers, and he broke the fast. So the one that took 3 days, the scholars took that and said 3 days. The one that took 4 days, they said 4 days. The one that took 15 days, then they said 15 days. Those who reported 19 days, they said up to 19 days. So if Prophet ﷺ would have gone for a travel for 50 days, they would have adopted the number 50. But he didn't. That's why, to be honest with you, numbers are more of examples that Prophet ﷺ did, but it's not really to limit the definition. So Imam Ibn Taymiyyah came to say, who put these numbers? You're just basing these numbers on incidents that Prophet ﷺ traveled. But the whole thing is, as he traveled, because it's within the same definition, he exercised the privilege of being a traveler. So he took the rukhsa and the allowance to do what a traveler is able to do. So Imam Ibn Taymiyyah said, no restrictions on days, no limitations. Whether it's 3 nights, 4 nights, 15 nights, 21 nights, it doesn't matter. As long as the person is not residing on the other side, then it's considered to be a traveler. It's a very legitimate opinion, but it goes against the majority of scholars. And it's all based on judgments, to be honest with you. There is really no clear evidence that says, a traveler is defined to be a traveler up to 4 days, and then after that, no more. Khalas. There is no hadith that says that. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I think, left it because of the situations that many people around the globe would fall into. and they would exercise that permissibility and that flexibility. Because just imagine if some people are always on travel for a couple of weeks and they would love to enjoy the allowance of of taking the rules of a traveler, but just imagine if they're only allowed to do it for 3 nights, and then they have just to go back to regular, where they have to attend every salah at its time, and they cannot shorten the prayer, and they cannot break the fast, so they cannot attend any of the lunch or dinner or what have you, or get together that they are traveling with others to, or they would have a lot of restrictions. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with his flexibility allowed this flexibility, but it's good to learn that you do have those limitations. Now, we want to talk about what are the conditions that are not agreed upon the scholars. This is where you have to define. This is where you have to say, well, according to this, this is where you have to say, well, this is kind of disagreed upon. It's not really fully agreed upon. So, from what I have shared with you, I would conclude the following for you. So you would write also 3 conditions that the scholars did not agree upon about allowance to break the fast. First, you have the condition that the scholars say that the travel has to be an allowed travel. So somebody's traveling for business, for leisure, for family occasions, or get together, whatever, for business, for worship act, or what have you. But it cannot be a travel for disobedience, for a sinful act. Someone cannot, and you might wonder, how the scholars would go, but as I said, the scholars have to cover every aspect. Unfortunately, it does happen in the Muslim Ummah. Some people are going to go for a business. Let's say there is a big show in Las Vegas. So their intention is to go for these big conventions that they do there. So that's a halal intention. But they also have the intention, not like a specific intention, but they know that they're going to do it because that has been their habit. As they go there, they get really weak when they see all these gambling machines and what have you, and they start, gambling and what have you. So that is considered to be a haram travel because they know that they're going to fall into a sinful act, even if it has a mixture of a halal because of that convention. So this condition is disagreed upon. You have like the vast majority of scholars like the Shafi'i and the Maliki and the Hanbali says this condition does not allow a person. Yani if someone knows that he's going to go to Las Vegas and they're going to end up gambling anyway, all the rules that we talked about pertaining a traveler in Ramadan would not fall on that person. So that person is not allowed to shorten prayers, should not allowed to combine prayers, should not allowed to break the fast. You would wonder, somebody who's going there and gambling is a person that would care much about fasting and praying. You will be amazed. Subhanallah, the conflict and the, I would say, hypocritical mind mindset that we have sometimes is there, and it does really exist. Yes, some people do commit the haram and pray anyway. Some people do go and gamble and still pray anyway. And I have those examples with personal, examples that I know within our own community here, where they still love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they still pertain and connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with their prayers, whatever, but they're just weak enough that they would love to enjoy the other side. So they do both. They do halal and they do haram at the same time, always leaning and inclining too much, relaxing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most forgiving and Allah will forgive them anyway. But again, this is a wrong concept of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives. Allah forgives with true intention to repent and to stop, not with someone that is just so much relaxed, that is more of playing games with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Oh, I'm gonna pray now, but I'm right after prayer, I'm gonna go commit zina and I'm gonna gamble and I'm gonna do that. It happens, and we have many Muslims around the globe that do that. And of course, we are not to judge them. This is all up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but we are about to judge their actions, not judge their hearts and minds and what's going to happen to them on the day of judgment. That's Allah's domain, and we have nothing to do with that. But to judge their actions, yes, we can say what they're doing is wrong. You cannot, travel with the intention of doing something haram, and then you want to exercise the permissibility that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you as a traveler. So no shortening of prayers for you, no breaking of fast for you. So when we say that, if they end up breaking the fast anyway, they are more sinful. So it's like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is putting more restrictions on them, and it's not giving them any privilege, because they're not taking the privilege of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because they're going against him anyway. So you have only the school of Hanafi that allows the rukhas and the allowance during travel, even if a person is going to do something sinful. Now, second condition, inshallah ta'ala, I will go through second, third, and then inshallah I will stop to give you the opportunity for questions. Second conditions that the scholars didn't agree upon is among the Shafi'i and the Hanafi and the Maliki, as we covered together, that we say ash-shuru'u fi safar, which means that you cannot wake up in the morning intending to travel and exercise the allowance of a traveler. No, you have to physically actually march on your journey and go out of your premises of your city. Then you can access. Then you are defined to be a traveler. Before that, no. Remember, we talked about this and we said that the Hanbali school says, no, you can actually exercise it from the morning because you have the intention and nothing is going to stop you unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sends something your way to stop you. So what if you actually end up not traveling? Then you just need to make up that day. They don't see a big deal out of it. They say you don't have to wait until 2 o'clock in the afternoon when you leave the premises of the city in order for you to exercise the allowance, but you can actually do it from the morning. Worst case scenario, you end up not traveling, just make up that day. They don't see a big deal out of it, and they supported that evidence with the hadith that I shared with you of the actions of the Sahabi, like Sayyidina Anas, one of the top Sahaba, that broke his fast in the morning before he traveled, and when he was questioned, he said that this is the sunnah of your beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we said that a Sahabi would not utter this statement unless he knows for sure that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam allowed it in that condition or in that status. طيب, Bismillah. The last condition that they disagreed upon. This is where all these conditions about the we said that they did not agree about the actual that the travel, that you need to leave the premises of your city, and then the other said you don't have to. So that's the second one. Third is that the Shafi'i, they put a condition that all this definition of travel just applies to somebody that does not have the habit to travel. But someone like a taxi driver, Uber driver that has no problem with going to Charlotte every day, to even Columbia, South Carolina, and coming back, to Virginia and coming back, and what have you, DC and coming back, they still do not. So according to the Shafi'i, that person is not allowed to exercise and entertain the allowance because it's a tendency, that person. But then the other majority say no, it would apply to him as well. But the Shafi'i did not agree. And they said that person cannot break the fast, cannot do any of the allowance that a traveler would do. Unless, of course, we said all of them agree, unless that travel causes severe difficulties, then everybody agrees that, as we said in the beginning. And I believe that should do it. I think in the other notes, the preference of whether to fast or not, we talked about. Just double checking for you, inshallah. Um, when does just in case if I didn't mention this, when does all this allowance stop? Then we said this is something that we talked about. It's the period of time that they differed on, whether it's 3 days, 4 days, 15 days. When does it stop, or whether it's really open as long as that person is still on travel. So we said that does not have consensus on it of the opinion of the scholar. This would inshallah cover almost all the rulings that came to my mind. Of course, down the road, I might add, we had different editions, we add more questions. So if you have questions today, inshallah, we can definitely add it to the notes. I'm going to give you, inshallah ta'ala, like a 3 to 5 minutes break. Get your thoughts together, your notes together, review them, and put your questions. And inshallah ta'ala, we'll come back in about 3 to 4 or 5 minutes to answer your questions, inshallah ta'ala. So I'll just give you, inshallah, that break, and we'll come back and see you in 5 minutes, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. Okay, inshallah, I want to see your questions. Uh, so I have a question that says for us, which opinion are we going to adopt in this class about the limitation of travel, the days, 3, 4, 15, 19, 21. To be honest with you, on a personal level, I personally intend to incline with the opinion of Imam Ibn Taymiyyah. I don't see any dalil that and proof that limits the time. Uh, but also, to be honest with you, I do not also see that opinion open with no cap. Yani it's a very difficult situation because anyone that adopts the opinion of Imam Ibn Taymiyyah also some go on the other extreme. Yani I tell you example, a student who gets promoted or gets a scholarship and travels from, let's say, Egypt and comes here to the United States. Then he takes the opinion of Imam Ibn Taymiyyah. Well, yeah, I'm coming to the United States, but I'm coming only to get my PhD degree. It might take 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. I don't know. It all depends. My home is Egypt and I reside in Egypt. This is where my family is, this is my relatives, this is where I grew up. So yes, I do have an apartment in the United States, but it's all temporary, it's student housing, what have you. I'm always at the school, in the lab, whatever. So yeah, I'm on travel and they take it all the way. They might just exercise this opinion for up to 6 years. We will not criticize that. We will not look down at it, but we will not necessarily feel that it's the right thing to do because you have you have a residence here, you have an address, you have an apartment, you have a masjid, you come to pray. Because with the rulings of traveler, then they can skip all the Jum'ah prayers. They can do so many things. They can just shorten the prayers. They can just pray all their life in the lab. They don't have to fast Ramadan, and they can make it up later on during the winter time. So they can skip fasting Ramadan during the like rough summer times, and so many different rulings that they can exercise. So I would say this is maybe where we would take both opinions of not limiting the travel to a specific number, but also being reasonable. I would say if we go on travel for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, the norm, the culture, the urf, what the custom that we have globally, not just during the within the United States, but globally, no one has the privilege to travel more than 4 to 6 weeks because everybody's committed to work, school, business, society pressure. You just can't leave work and leave everything behind for more than 6 weeks. So that's our global understanding. That's called urf, that's called custom. This is what I would feel comfortable to say. If the travel is within our norm, within our custom, within our reasonable understanding, whether it's 1 week up to 6 weeks or up to 2 months, then I think it is all allowed for us to adopt the opinion of no limitation. If it's definitely beyond that, like the student example that I gave you, no one comes to say this is the norm. No one says when someone resides in a different country for 6 years, he's still considered to be, a foreign person to that area. That person is not a foreign person to that area. Even if he's a student and what have you, he's not foreign. He is a resident. And we're not talking about now immigration status, but he's a resident of that place. He's legal. He has a driver license. He has a physical address. He has a masjid that he can attend to. He has so many. He has a settlement there. He has a house to end up going to at the end of the day and what have you. So this would be my answer. If it's within our culture and customs globally, the norm of it, then we can exercise the privilege and the allowance of traveler. If it's not within the norm, then it's not. So if someone is has the privilege to travel for 3 6 months with no disruption to their business, to their lifestyle, and some do have that privilege, but this is not the norm. Honestly, that's not the norm. SubhanAllah, I travel every year to Hajj and I take people. You will be amazed that some of the brothers and sisters are also looking to exercise if there is a possibility to shorten even the 2 weeks, because they just need to come back. They just don't have the privilege to travel for longer than 2 weeks and what have you. So they wanted like something shorter in order to rest for a couple of days, 2 3 days before they go back to work and what have you. So again, that would be my answer. I feel comfortable if it's within the global understanding of travel. If it's within the exceptions, somebody that can travel for 3 months, 6 months without a problem, that's not the norm. So I would not give that person a definition of a traveler. That person would just need to just immediately, right after they arrive there, and everybody knows that within the allowance time, 3 4 15 19 21 days, that would limit your privilege as a traveler. So after that, they just need to go back to residence status. That's what I would feel comfortable with. And that's what I would just pass on to you in this class. Bismillah. The other questions that I have is, mm, okay, so I have a question that says someone that went on travel with the intention of fasting that day did not, that someone does not intend to fast, does intend to fast that day. So he has the intention to fast, and he goes on travel with the intention to fast the day. In the middle of the day, he craves some food, some drinks, it's hot, it's really extremely hot, and they want, they just craves it. So it's not really a severe hardship and what have you. The question is, can they break the fast? Can they actually eat and drink and what have you? So, the question is, I know that at the very least, this is not preferable, but is it prohibited? Is it haram? Must he pay kafara in addition to making up the day? So this is something I think, if I'm not mistaken, that we covered, but if we didn't, I want you to add it to our notes. So we did talk about someone that actually in the morning goes into fasting and they fast. Can they break the fast during the day? And if I remember, I have compared that to you with salah. I said someone that goes into the salah worship act, they just can't break the salah for no reason. If I remember correctly, I said they go into the salah, and then they remember that they want to finish something. So they break the salah, and they go attend that to attend to that something to finish it, whether it's cooking or to finish a part of studying, or to remember that I need to send an email. If I don't send it now, it's going to be too late. So before I forget, I want to send it now. And the answer was no, they cannot. Someone that starts the prayer cannot end it for no reason. It has to be a legitimate reason. Someone that enters Umrah cannot end the Umrah with no reason. It has to be a legitimate reason, and there will be consequences on that. Someone that enters Hajj cannot get out of Hajj unless it's a legitimate reason, and there has to be consequences and a kafara to that. Same thing goes with fasting. That person went into a worship act and started fasting, cannot break the fast just because they crave fasting, crave some food and drink. They cannot do that. Now, that's a general answer. So we want to go into specifics, and maybe the specifics I did not share with you during the class. So with the general answer, no, that person cannot just because he craves food and drink. So he cannot break the fast, and he must continue. And if he does actually break the fast, he's going not to only need to make up the day, but also to pay kafara for that day. Now, with this is where I intend to give you the details. So everything I told you is agreed upon, but what's not agreed upon is the kafara issue, and also the intention. Can they break it or not? Now, what's not agreed upon is he sinful or not? So according, if I remember correctly, but I will review that for you next time, inshallah. Um, or actually, I will give you what I remember now, but I will give it to you as a homework. That's where you need to bring me back the answer in detail in the homework. So according to which school. But what I remember now is that the first two schools, the one right after each other, I usually remember by linking the schools with their historical existence. So it's first, number one, Hanafi, second, Maliki, third, Shafi'i, and fourth, Hanbali. So when the opinions are together, this is very easy for me to remember. What I remember is that the Hanafi, the first, and the Maliki, the second, are on the same intention, is that this person cannot break the fast because he craves food. Must continue the fast. If he actually does break the fast, he's sinful, he has to make up the day, and he has to pay kafara. The third and fourth school of thought, Shafi'i and Hanbali, still on the opinion, remember, all of them agreed that when you intend and go into a worship act, all of them agree that the traveler has to have a legitimate reason to break the fast. So now they disagree on the craving. Is craving food a legitimate reason or not? So Shafi'i and Hanbali, to the best of my memory, allow that person to break the fast, meaning that he's not sinful. It's not preferable, as the question says. It's not preferable. So they all agree upon the fact that what he did is not something preferable. But is it haram? Is it a haram act? They don't go to that extent. They say, no, it's not haram because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed it. Remember, the Hajj, the Umrah example that I brought you, the Salah example, is not something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed to go out of it with no reason. But the siyam, the breaking the fast, Allah allowed. But then they differed on, is it legitimate travel or not? Is it legitimate reason to break the fast or not? That's something they disagreed upon. So the Shafi'i and the Hanbali said he's not sinful. It's not preferable, but it's not to the extent that he's considered to be sinful. So he's not sinful. Does he have to make up the day? Of course, everybody agrees that he has to make up the day because he broke the day. Does he have to pay kafara? He does not have to pay kafara because they don't see it a haram act and they see it permissible. It's not the best, it's not preferable, there is not something that needs to be considered, but if he ends up doing it anyway, then it's not haram and he doesn't have to pay kafara for it. That's what I remember, but I will give you this as your homework for next week to detail that for me. So detailed for me someone that woke up in the morning, that had the intention at night that tomorrow I'm going on travel, but it's an easy travel. It doesn't include hardship in it. I will not break my fast as he intended that. He went into the day, he fasted the day. In the middle of the day at noon, he craved food and drink, and he broke the fast anyway. So, what is his allowance? What are his rulings? That would be, inshallah, your homework for next week. Inshallah, we will meet also next week, and then I will give you a couple of weeks as a break for Eid, and then we will resume, inshallah, our series on that. جزاكم الله خير وبارك الله فيكم إن شاء الله تعالى. I will see you inshallah next week. You have a great day. بارك الله فيكم. May Allah reward you all. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.